I'm going to show what we see on the SERP now without us knowing whether we're going to rank or not. And I'm going to argue that the way we've written the blog post has a very good chance of ranking. And I'm going to show how most people would not write this. Just saying that, just knowing to say that means like you're speaking their language.
I just think when you're writing this, if you're the reader reading through all this stuff, it just speaks that you know the customer so well just by writing this detail. And I think that's what stands out.
Welcome to the Grow and Convert Marketing Show. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics of all time, writing blog posts. Arguably one of your favorite things of all time, which is...
Yeah, it's to watch you rip on blog posts.
Yes, listening to me talk about writing blog posts. We both got our hoodies on. That was not planned. So our hoodie game is on. So here's what we're going to do. I am going to talk about 3 examples of posts, real posts for clients. One of them is brand new. It's for a new client, Toro TMS, that makes trucking management software that trucking companies use to manage their business. And the keyword is QuickBooks trucking software that we're going after for them. We have not ranked for it because we literally just published or we're about to publish. It's like brand new, and I thought it'd be a fun...
I think we just published it, but the blog went live on their site last week. So yeah, we're starting from scratch with this client. So
what am I saying? I literally have the tab open. Yes, we've actually published it on their site. And so it's going to be a fun thing where I'm going to show what we see on the SERP now without us knowing whether we're going to rank or not. And I'm going to argue that the way we've written the blog post has a very good chance of ranking. And I'm going to show how most people would not write this. Most content agencies would not write this. We can maybe do a follow-up episode much later or a segment in an episode where we say, hey, by the way, we are ranking at X position or whatever. That could be kind of fun. And then I'm going to use 2 other client pieces that are written similarly to show that and are ranking to show why we write in this way. These for these category keywords. And one of them is going to be for Fusion Academy, which is this high-end private school network in the US. And the keyword is best schools for sensory processing disorder. And the other is for ServiceTitan, software that plumbing, HVAC, and electrical people use to run their business. And that keyword is inventory management for electrical contractors. So there's a variety of keywords, but there are themes in how we write these posts. And we are targeting all of them with long-form written content. So buckle up. If you are listening on the podcast version, I will try my best. You should be able to follow along. We'll be reading out specific lines and comparing it. This is going to be a deep dive into writing, and it's fun. And if you're watching, we'll also share our screen and show specific examples of how to write this. Are you ready, Benji?
I'm ready.
Okay. So I am going to start off one step before writing, and I'm going to share the SERP for QuickBooks trucking software. This is our original case study, and I think it's an important place to start. Because to understand how you want to write a piece, it has to start from analyzing what's already ranking. We call this SERP analysis, but there's nuance here. So, QuickBooks trucking software. Like I said, we have yet to rank for it. The first step is just common sense. This is what we call a category keyword, bottom of funnel, right? You just like common sense. What are they looking for? So there's some nuance here that we had some discussion on our side that makes this kind of a fun example. It's not as obvious as like accounting software. What are they looking for? Obviously accounting. Here it's like, what does this even mean? QuickBooks trucking software. It has volume. Does QuickBooks make trucking software? Not really. It makes QuickBooks, which is just general purpose accounting software. Is there a trucking add-on to it? Or are they talking about trucking software that integrates with QuickBooks? This kind of like question comes up When you get past like your first most obvious thing, there's kind of this nuance of understanding the keyword. It comes up. Keep this in mind, because this level of kind of carefulness in understanding the keyword is going to be what takes your writing from the examples I'm going to show that just kind of miss and would just kind of awkward for people, to writing that hits and is spot on and maximizes your chances of impressing the reader and converting. Okay. Now, there is an AI overview that I'm showing on the screen, and the AI overview already has some interesting stuff. Like it says QuickBooks can be used for trucking, but it doesn't have specific features for trucking. Now, the first two results I'll look into. The first is a QuickBooks landing page, which I've opened up in a tab here. Very classic landing page. That is the number one organic result for what I'm seeing. And that's it. There's a headline. It says payroll software for trucking businesses. And then you scroll through and it like has a list of features with these little diagrams or images next to them. Managed labor costs, customized payroll reports, payroll for truck drivers made easy. So it's like a customized landing page of being like, you can use QuickBooks for it. The second result is from a company.
Before we move on, I actually want to touch on that. A lot of people would look at this SERP and think just because it's branded that it's not even worth going after. So, for example, the keyword is QuickBooks trucking software, and the number one result is QuickBooks. And so a lot of people might think to themselves, why would I even ever go after this, because I'm never going to get above QuickBooks? And so this is like a keyword we should just discard.
Yeah.
Well, we have a couple examples of us actually outranking the branded company for this specific keyword, because you're creating content that is really specific to this use case. And so if QuickBooks doesn't really offer like trucking payroll, if it's just one of their segments, and you write in the post some of the downsides of just using like out of the box QuickBooks, and you write how you can do something better, there are chances where you can outrank it, or at worst come up right where truck base is, right below them.
I was going to say that latter part. You don't even need to outrank it.
For sure, because people might already have QuickBooks and they might be looking for the add-on, or they might have QuickBooks and just know of the downsides, and so they're looking for other options. And so, yeah, just ranking in the SERP is helpful. But I do want to say that we have examples of us outranking QuickBooks in this case.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if your truck base, which is the second spot, that is an amazing spot to be. Like, you're going to get conversions. We see conversions from rank. It's not like the number one spot is the only spot that gets conversions. And if they're typing QuickBooks trucking software, that's actually a great point. It's almost like they're begging for a non-QuickBooks solution. If you were just using QuickBooks and okay with it, why would you ever type that in? So it's like you're looking for some software that's related to QuickBooks.
I think in this case, you're looking for something that integrates with QuickBooks.
Right.
Like that would be the intent that I would think, because you likely already have QuickBooks. You already know that there's no trucking add-ons. It even says that in the AI overview. And so you're looking for software that then integrates with QuickBooks to make your accounting easier for your company.
Okay. So then if we look at the number 2 one, this thing from TruckBase, it is also a landing page. So it has a much better, like, kind of, involved specific headline, the H1 of the landing page. QuickBooks for trucking has never been easier. Let's cut your accounting work.
Even that H2 is pretty good, like that first sentence.
Yeah. Most trucking companies are copying data over from their operation tools into QuickBooks. Like, this is like getting at it. Your TMS or your spreadsheets don't have your financial source of truth, but QuickBooks doesn't tie revenue and cost to trucks or orders. Basically, if you're like, what are you guys talking about? The point is, it's doing kind of step one of what I'm going to share is kind of what I'm going to argue and say in this video is a good default to write these kind of category posts, which is lead with pain points and let the pain points set up the pitch of your product. That's kind of me cutting to the chase of what my end example is going to be. And it does that in a landing page. And it's good. It like sort of lays out some of these pain points. So right here it says like copying data over, that most trucking companies have to copy data over, and their TMS or the trucking like operational software isn't the source of truth. QuickBooks is, but there's like an integration issue. So that's kind of good. And then you kind of like scroll through and there's like logos and shields and all this stuff. But it kind of doubles down with the copy on the page. With another H2 down the page, it says entering the same data manually is a massive waste of time. It doubles your risk of making errors and this and that. So like this is good. But if you were to see these, you would start to think, oh, do we need to create a landing page? So let me show what we have published. And again, I'm doing this not as a, agency shows an example where they're ranking already. That's convenient. I will do that later. Don't worry. But this is an example where we're like, I'm just going to say like, you guys can track us later. Track whether Toro TMS is ranking later because we just published this. So let's see. And so let's just analyze the depths. I'm not going to waste time read every word on the podcast. This would be annoying. But let me just show you how we introduce it. So our title. So first of all, ours is a blog post. So already we're doing something that I think a lot of companies and marketers would shy away from for a category keyword. They would say, are you kidding me? QuickBooks has a landing page. Then TruckBase has a landing page. The third one is more involved, and I didn't want to waste time with it. But it's a blog post that I actually think is pretty good. And then there's some more QuickBooks pages. So you might get scared away, as Benji said, because it's branded. Or you might be like, we need a landing page. Or we need our QuickBooks page. We did not do that. Title. QuickBooks trucking software, how to save 70% of time on back office tasks. Nothing particularly out of the ordinary there, right? We have the H1, but now let's look at the introduction, where I'm going to argue the introduction is where you set up your pain point you need to be specific and detailed. And I'll show some blog posts that we can link to in the show notes for further reading. Okay. It starts off. If you're looking for a QuickBooks trucking software, you likely want to, and then there's 3 bullets, spend less time on invoicing, payroll, and tax, reduce manual data entry, gain better insights into profitability and expenses. For those reading, I'm skipping some words for clarity.
Even that second bullet point I think is important to touch on because it's not just reduce manual data entry. So even that last landing page had mentioned that, but it says between dispatch and accounting. And I think that's really important. If you're in the trucking space, it immediately says, I'm speaking to you because you understand how their business is set up between dispatch and accounting. And that's where the challenges usually come from an accounting standpoint.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I was trying not to read every word, but what I skipped is actually really important. The full bullet is reduce manual data entry between dispatch and accounting. I just said reduce manual data entry, and you're right. The between dispatch and accounting, there's like direct and subtle things that just that does. Direct is if they literally have a pain point of like dispatch is dispatching the trucks and then and like communicating, and they're the back office communication hub, and accounting is doing this thing, and like stuff is getting lost, like that's a pain point. We've said it. But the second thing that Benji's getting at, I think, is just saying that, just knowing to say that means like you're speaking their language. And that's this like what I'm going to show in the show notes later. It's this detail principle that I've argued in a post from years ago now of just like the good blog posts, like average blog posts just kind of say a benefit, reduces manual data entry time, as you said. And then the best ones get really detailed between dispatch and accounting. And in that post, we talk about ways to get detailed. Let's keep going. Then the next paragraph starts to go into the specifics of where QuickBooks falls short. In fact, the next several paragraphs do, and I'll just give you a couple highlights. QuickBooks offers useful features for trucking companies such as this, that, and the other. However, it lacks industry-specific functions to streamline operations. We're not specific yet. That's fine, but there's more. And from our experience working with hundreds of trucking companies, accounting software won't solve these challenges. You still need to manually enter mileage, fuel, driver pay, mile by mile, ton or load, invoice details such as reference numbers and scanned documents. And if any details change mid-delivery, updating everything becomes even more time-consuming, especially for bulk haulers managing multiple loads per truck daily. Actually, Benji, this paragraph has like a ton of what you're saying.
Yeah, I was going to say, in that landing page that you showed, And so everyone who's watching this is my first time seeing this example and the other example that Davis is sharing. And just what I notice is I thought this was good originally looking at this
The
because
truck-based landing page?
yeah, because it had the truck-based one does have a lot of details.
It is pretty good.
It is good, but I think this is now taking it to another level where you're saying that level of detail in terms of talking about the specific things that you would need to enter into your accounting system that are not there tells the reader that you know their business in depth. And then same thing, and then now you're calling out specific types of trucks, so bulk haulers and things like that. And so again, I just think when you're writing this, if you're the reader reading through all this stuff, it just speaks that you know the customer so well just by writing this detail. And I think that's what stands out. There's a lot of people that say, oh, the writing on Grow and Convert is really good. It seems like you guys really understand. And I think it's because we go into those examples and we say, like, here's an analytics screenshot from the analytics tool that you're probably using. And here are the reports that you're looking at. And so I think it's the same thing done for the client, where these little details make a huge difference when someone's reading it, saying that, you truly understand me and the challenges that I'm facing in my business. It's one thing to say accounting software won't solve these challenges. It's another thing to say, and here's all the reasons why.
I want to say two more things. This is a great point. Number one, it's not an accident. Like, it's actually more than that. Yes, it's not an accident that we are able to mention these details. Like, accounting software won't solve these challenges. You'll still need to manually enter mileage, fuel usage, driver pay, parentheses, by mile, ton, or load, and then invoice details such as reference and scanned documents. You don't just randomly run into this. So first of all, for all of you we know that a decent number of our audience and all do similar things as us. You're a consultant, you're a content freelance writer, or what have you. And if you're listening, like, you cannot, I'm sure someone's going to like try to prove me wrong, and that's fine. But my argument's going to be, I think it's going to be basically impossible to even know this level of detail to write this if you had just browsed the Toro TMS website. Like, you can't Google research your way into knowing to write this.
I was going to say the same thing. If you're a writer just looking at the SERP, there's no way you're going to have this level of detail. There's no way you're going to know who the customer is. Like, if you were using AI to try to come up with these arguments, again, there's no way that you're going to know these specifics.
It's not going to get into that much detail because most people aren't write it. Now, I will challenge one thing you said and be more specific. I agree with you. Benji said there's no way you're going to know who the customer is. You could argue for many software that's not true, that like just by seeing their website and all, you can kind of obviously conclude who their customer is. In fact, Toro, if we click over the homepage, someone could push back on you, Benji, and say like, literally the homepage says the TMS for bulk haulers. We know it's for trucking companies. Like, that's obvious. True. What I'm saying, that's fine, is even if you know, obviously this is TMS stands for trucking management software, and that is for trucking companies, obviously, you're not going to know enough detail to know that, like, when you're trying to sell them on your software in relation to people who are using QuickBooks and want some integration with QuickBooks, i.e. this keyword, that a key pain point is you need to manually enter what? Mileage, fuel usage, driver pay, and that driver pay can be by mile, ton, or load. It's just insanely specific. And that you want to enter invoice details such as reference numbers and scanned documents. I remember, the reason I'm using this example is, one, because Charlie and Caitlin on our team did an amazing job writing this, and the client loved that this first article, and I thought it'd be good to sort of highlight that for them. And two, I just remember the kickoff calls because they happened recently because we just started, right? And I remember like this came up in the calls where we were like, how does this work? And they were like in-depth describing their process of like how trucking works, like for this bulk hauling type of trucking, and how they're hauling this load and they get to the site and then there's like these tickets that like the person at the site literally gives them. And that ticket says how much tons of load, like of like wood chips or whatever they like delivered. And that ticket needs to ultimately somehow be entered into the accounting software. That is an insane level of detail. You're not going to Google research your way into doing that unless you spend an inordinate amount of time. So, the second thing I want to say about this is these pain points are setting up the pitch. So the typical way marketers write about this is the QuickBooks landing page style. Even if you write a blog post, it's just, we're not even going to talk about pain points, or we talk about them second. We lead with our features. You lead with us. Like, let's just read the headlines of the QuickBooks landing page. Payroll software for trucking businesses. All the features you need to manage trucking software. And on the left, there's like this table of contents. Manage labor costs, tackle payroll taxes. So like, you can see you could argue back with me right now, like, David, like, manage labor costs has this tone of like pain points. And they do talk about it in here. Like, when you run a trucking company, you have to stay on top of this and that driver and vehicle expenses and keep tabs on labor costs. But it's like, it's all just like,
it's
leading.
not the same specificity though.
It's lacking specificity, and it's all just like, it's not enough detail. It's like customized payroll reports. Like, you're already talking about customizing reporting. Like, what you see how they've already jumped to like some QuickBooks feature, customized payroll reports. Are you telling me how I'm gonna get these scanned tickets into my software? Like, no. You know? And then look at this other headline. Payroll for truck drivers made easy. That just kind of says nothing, right? Like any software could say this. And that's kind of how people lead. So ours sets it up. And watch now how we transition from the pain points, and you keep this close tie from the pain points to the software. And that's like the big thing I want people to come away with this is like, if you're wondering, how do I write these category pieces and how do I sell my product or service in them without feeling too salesy? Everyone's like, oh, like it's like uncouth to just like come in and sell it. We didn't start off talking about ourselves. We started talking about in detail about their pain points, but then it goes hand in hand. And what we're doing is we are setting up these things we just read to you. You still need to manually enter mileage, fuel usage, driver pay. The other part of it that's not an accident is we know that we are about to then tell you that our software makes that really easy. So we're strategically discussing the pain points that we know matter to the customer and that when I say our, I mean our clients, product or service is really good at solving. So from this thing about manual data entry, our piece then has this short paragraph that just says, the only way to reduce this data entry is to eliminate paper tickets and do things digitally. And for that to work, the software has to be easy for dispatchers and drivers to both work. And that's where Toro TMS comes in. And then there's bullet points. Dispatch teams can enter load information just once. Everyone downstream, including drivers in your back office, has immediate access to that data. And then next, drivers can take pictures of these tickets basically and upload them to the shared platform. They don't have to download an app to do that. Back office teams can process driver pay, invoices, and taxes without re-entering anything because it's in one system. Accounting can send all that information to QuickBooks with a single click. And so that's all in the introduction of the blog post. Then the rest of the blog post, if you do that properly, allows you to deep dive into each feature. And there, I'm not going to read the body, but like the H2s are like, number one, enter load data once at dispatch and reduce your admin time downstream. There's screenshots, there's discussion, there's bullet points. Number two, let drivers receive dispatch information and upload their documents on their phones. And then eventually it describes without downloading any app or creating an account. Like one click, they take a photo. So it like deep dives. But that arc, the story arc of the piece of how you do this is you lead with ultra specific pain points. And then you set that up and you pick the pain points that you know your company can solve well, and you mention them. And then you can spend a good chunk of the piece deep diving into it. So now that you see this, forget if you're still doubting whether we can rank or not. I'll convince you in a second with two other examples. But like, if you see this versus the landing page, you can see how our conversion rates can actually be really good. And that's something we've talked about for years, is like people assume that landing page equals high conversion rate and blog post equals low conversion rate. And the only reason they are assuming this is because what they have done is used blog posts for non-converting content. They've used blog posts for how-to content. But if you use blog posts For this bottom of funnel content, you can write them in this way. And if you write them in this way, they will convert really well.
People often think that landing pages have a higher conversion rate. We have a blog post on our site that dispels that myth, that you can get, let's say, upwards of 10 to 14% we've seen blog posts convert at. And so again, most people use the 3% benchmark for landing page to conversion. And again, a lot of those numbers come from paid. So I don't know many people that have really measured conversion rates on landing pages versus blog posts from organic only. But yeah, I mean, a 10% conversion rate from a blog post to a sign up is massive, and not an email sign up.
Yeah, for product sign up. Yeah, I think what's happening is that culture of like landing pages, like our high converting page for our paid ads, it just continues. And they just assume, hey, if this is a keyword where we need to convert people to a demo or to a free trial, like a product conversion, not just like download this piece of content, they just assume that that's what the landing page is for, because they're just not used to this. They're not used to even going after conversion related keywords like product, commercial intent, what we call bottom of funnel keywords with blog posts. And even if they did, they don't even think to write in this way, where you're just like deep diving into the pain points and how your product solves it, and like kind of putting almost a demo call on the page as a blog post. And I was showing on my screen, we have this other thing we'll put in the show notes, this other piece where we analyze 95 articles and we show the average conversion rates of them and these category keywords, which are all written in this long form way, like I'm talking about, converting at 5% or 2.5% plus, which for long form written blog posts is it's really good. And it's converting.
Well, one other thing that we didn't touch on, so beyond just the conversion rate reason why to do a blog post, why else do a blog post over a landing page here for this specific SERP? Because we often get asked that a lot for clients. So they'll see the SERP and say, shouldn't we just create a landing page for this?
Yeah, it's a lot easier to rank with a blog post. I say this, and I think that's what you were getting at, and I'll defend it in a second. That said, I don't think we have done an analysis, because it's really hard to A/B test whether a landing page would rank higher than a blog post, but like we have a ton of examples, and I'm about to show two where we're ranking number one with these kind of blog posts.
And we have some clients that have taken blog posts that have historically ranked, taken all that information and then reformatted it into a landing page. So I don't think you have to go one way or another. Both can work. I think we tend to lean more on blog posts because it gives us more room in the writing to describe the problem and solution. And again, I don't think you'd be able to have this much information on a landing page.
Yeah, and it gives you more room to do the on-page SEO you need to rank. So we use ClearScope or whatever on-page SEO like you have to insert stuff. And then that you remind me of one other thing that I hadn't planned on saying, but you were sort of jogging my memory. This level of room that the blog post gives you also allows you to do kind of nuanced conversion filtering. What I mean is we consistently have clients that say things like, well, there's a lot of people looking for this type of software that could Google this term, but we want only this very specific type. Like a common thing is we only want companies at 500 employees or higher. It's very common to be like, we only want the enterprise size, or we only need people in this particular bucket or whatever. You can write a landing page in a way that would kind of let people self-select, but a blog post just gives you so much room to cover the nuance when you're in that kind of situation. Like, for example, for Toro, they don't make trucking software for anyone. They make it specifically for bulk haulers. They want bulk haulers, and that's why we went to their homepage. It literally says the TMS for bulk haulers. Like, they're very specific on that. I'm not going to get into the difference of what that is because it took a while for even me or us to understand. But the point is, like, there's ways inside here where we can do something where, like, we say, hey, this keyword is not bulk hauler specific. So if we wrote a landing page or something with not a lot of copy that was just bulk haulers, bulk hauler, bulk haulers, there's a chance we just wouldn't rank that high because Google's algorithm is going to be like, what the heck is this? Like, I want to rank something that's just general purpose QuickBooks trucking software. That's the keyword, not for bulk haulers. But a blog post allows you to kind of do both.
Where we'll have to do that is, so if we go after trucking management software, which is the core category keyword for that space, in that case, it doesn't really distinguish between just fleets or different types of trucks and bulk hauling. So in the piece, again, I think to your point, that's where we're going to have to distinguish that this software is specifically meant for bulk haulers, and it's not going to be good for other types of
and if you don't have that much room to work with, you're doing a landing page and you make it only bulk hauler specific because that's what you do, you risk the Google algorithm feeling like you don't satisfy intent and they're not going to rank you that high. Then what's the point if you're not ranked that high? So that's the arc. That's like the formula. When in doubt, lead with your pain points. It has multiple benefits. You don't end up looking too beginnery and novice and just kind of like weird. You show like that you understand them. They feel like, oh my God, like you like resonate with our pain points. You must know us. And so therefore they're more likely to pay attention and believe in your solution. Anyone who like can tell you the exact problem you're having, you're going to listen to the solution they have because they get you. So it has these kind of multiple benefits. Now, let's show some other examples. I want to start with this ServiceTitan example. Inventory management for electrical contractors. Here, we are ranking number 1. Below us is a competitor, BuildOps. So just as a quick thing, as I mentioned, a refresher, ServiceTitan makes software for plumbers to run their business. So you can imagine what that involves, right? Like you can make a little invoice and you have it on an iPad and you can show the customer when you show up to their house, and plumbers, electricians, and HVAC. This is for electrical contractors. And inventory management means like the software can also track what kind of materials and stuff that they have and kind of manage that. So let me first open up the second ranking piece, our competitor, by this company called BuildOps. And let's look at this. So again, this is for the keyword inventory management for electrical contractors. So if we start just reading parts of their intro, it says, inventory management for electrical contractors refers to the systematic approach that businesses in the electrical contracting field use to oversee and control the ordering, storage, and use of materials that are necessary. So they define it first already.
I was already going to say, if you're searching for this, who needs the definition of what the category is? Like, you already know you're searching for software that does this, or you're searching for a solution that does this. You don't need to be told that it refers to the systematic approach that businesses are using.
Yeah. And it just continues to define. This process includes tracking inventory levels, ordering supplies, ensuring the right materials are available when needed, managing the stock, et cetera, et cetera. Then it then motivates why it's good. Effective inventory management is critical for electrical contractors to maintain smooth operations, reduce waste, and maximize profitability. As Benji said, like, you're Googling inventory management for electrical contractors. I get if you want to push back and say, hey guys, technically the word software is not in it. What if they're Googling just like general best practices? Fine. But do you really need this many?
Even then, you don't need to do that. No, because you don't. Because inventory management for electrical contractors, you're searching for a solution. Even though the word software is not in that, the intent is you're searching for a solution that does this for electrical contractors. So you are an electrical contractor, and you don't need to be told what this is or why effective inventory management is important. It's part of your job.
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody is Googling something that specific and needs to be convinced that inventory management is, quote, and I quote, critical for electrical contractors to maintain smooth operations. That's so general it says nothing. Reduce waste and maximize profitability. It does have a kind of an AI writing feel, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, I was going to say that this comes across as written by someone who does not have expertise in this space. Either it's a person and they looked up definitions for this, or it is partially written by AI.
Yeah. And it just like continues with this background information. It involves tools and techniques that help in forecasting demand. Like, I guess that kind of gets to it a little bit. Then there's another sentence. The goal is to have a seamless supply chain. We already talked about seamless, that delivers the right components at the right time. This is just, yes, we know what inventory management is. It's to manage your inventory and have enough stuff when you need it without unnecessary costs or causing project delays. Correct. That's what you mean by seamless. Like, we're just saying the same thing over and over again. And then, wait,
Oh
no,
my-
now we have to do this.
It's still go. Oh
It's
my
still
God.
going. We're on paragraph 3. And by the way, if you're just
I was looking at paragraph 4 already, and I was like, how is this still going?
yeah, paragraph 3. And if you're listening, I have not read to you every word. There's like more that I'm like skipping over. And then, but paragraph 3 then starts, by employing robust inventory management systems, electrical contractors can keep track of vast array of items. We have already defined it from simple wiring nuts and bolts to sophisticated electrical panels. Yup, that's what inventory means. And the integration of technology.
Go to the first sentence of paragraph 4.
Inventory management is an integral component of any successful electrical contracting business. Oh my God.
How many times have we said that? Yes, we get it's important.
How many times we had to say
And then
it?
it's going to end. I'm joking.
No, the
but
next
I wouldn't
sentence
be
is also good. Without it, contractors run the risk of project delays. Wasn't there something? Yes, like 5 sentences up. The goal is to have seamless supply chain that delivers the right components at the right time without incurring unnecessary costs or causing project delays. Ooh, I'm smelling some AI writing right now.
Watch to the very end is going to say inventory management is important for your business.
I mean, it kind of the end of the intro does. Like, we're in this upcoming article, we'll explore various strategies, blah blah blah, and then it says challenges, including improving operational efficiency and enhancing their bottom line. Yep.
I'd be willing to bet that this article does not convert well, and even though it ranks, like we actually just published a piece on our site about this exact topic, that you can rank for a very high intent keyword, and you can still have conversion issues, and a lot of people don't understand why that is, and this is the reason. Imagine if you were the right person searching for this, getting to this article, and you just read through 5 paragraphs that said absolutely nothing or just repeated itself over and over again. You already have the idea in your mind that this business probably doesn't know you or is not going to be able to help you, and so you're probably going to bounce within those first five paragraphs before you even get into the detail. And we had a situation like this. I don't think the writing was half as bad as this, but we had a situation where the product wasn't positioned the way that we would do it in our pieces. And by updating just the writing and adding more specificity and clarity and helping with the positioning of the product, we improved the conversion rates like 66 to 900% just by doing better writing in the intro and then the body of the pieces.
Yeah. That is actually a great point, because we've been doing these videos on AI. I wrote this survey post that's coming out soon. And so I've been kind of thinking about AI writing and reading these survey respondents and what they're doing. And you could make an argument like that. Those people's voices is in my head right now being like, fine, Davish, like you can make fun of this. But if ChatGPT wrote it in 5 seconds and I can publish like tons of these for these keywords, then who cares? Like, you spent a ton of time ranking for that. The answer is you should care because you can rank for these, but they're not converting. When Benji quickly sort of glancingly says, what did you say, 66 to 900%? I'm going to slow down there. 900% increase in conversion rate is the difference between on and off. Like, it's a difference between this thing doing nothing for you. Like, it's just not converting. And even if you used AI, there was a human being that had to like process it and do it and think to go after this keyword. And like, if you literally make software, and I can mouse over their drop down where they say platform, and it's literally like this kind of software that does this reporting and inventory and service agreements and all this stuff. Like, if you literally do this, what are you doing ranking for this if you're not selling your software? Like what's the point? And we've measured, you are not converting by a massive amount. And so I was scrolling through as Benji said this, they just don't even talk about build ops. And they do what most people think, which is there's this big, what looks like an ad when you're reading a newspaper article online, that your eyes would skip over this graphic that says see build ops. It's like literally
I did skip over it because it looks like a banner ad. I didn't even look at what it said before you just stopped on it.
So it's like this like graphic, like, and it says literally it looks like a banner ad. Benji's exactly right. See build ops in action, live demo every Thursday at 3. Why would I sign up for this demo? You're not even talking about it. And so this keyword, you could argue, is people. A lot of content marketers approach it this way. Inventory management for electrical contractors. It must not be bottom of funnel. It doesn't say software in it. I'm just going to like talk about inventory management best practices in general. This is ranking number 2. Let's look at what's ranking number 1. ServiceTitan, our post for our client. And look at the way we write it. It is exactly analogous to how we wrote the Toro TMS post. Except this one's actually ranking number 1. I'm going to start at the beginning. For electrical contractors that want to invest in a software system for managing inventory, there are 2 main options. Number 1, inventory management software, and then he explains a little bit. Number 2, electrical contractor software with built-in inventory management. And they say holistic field service software, that's what ServiceTitan is. And then we start going into it. So like, let me just pause there. This should absolve a myth that if you see a keyword that seems like it could be a little bit up funnel, that it doesn't say software in it, inventory management for electrical contractors, and you even see ranking high, something like build ops, where it's just like a general purpose discussion about inventory management best practices and just-in-time inventory, blah, 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 that you may think Google, that's what Google wants. It wants a how-to, and if we talk about our software and sell our software, we're not going to rank. False. Like, we are ranking here, and we're ranking in a million different places like this. And what we are doing, though, is, again, using the introduction to set up the pain points to allow us to sell, in this case, ServiceTitan, this client's product. So it's approached in a different way. Cam, who wrote this, comes out immediately just discussing like the 2 software options. But watch how he transitions into the same thing we talked about in Toro, very specific pain points. While both software solutions can help you solve the challenges, the first option, inventory only, comes with distinct disadvantages when compared to holistic. For example, inventory only software generally will not integrate with the other tools you use to run your business, like work order apps, estimating apps, and invoicing apps. So, it doesn't stop there. When equipment or materials are added to a sold estimate or invoice, someone on staff will need to manually update your inventory software to reflect that. The same things we talked about in Toro apply here. First of all, how in the world would you even know to write this if you were doing Google research paper? If you were just Googling around? You can't Google the ServiceTitan website, minus the fact that us and a bunch of people on ServiceTitan have written a bunch of amazing blog posts. You can't Google around their main site if this was a brand new client to you and figure this out. Like to this level of detail, that there's 2 types of software for managing inventories if you're an electrical contractor. One is dedicated inventory. The other is like holistic software with inventory as a feature. That dedicated inventory has this integration issue. That an example of the integration issue is when equipment or materials are added. It's like layers and layers of specificity, of detail. And that is the pain point, is if you are doing this, you're like discovering it. You're like, yup. Oh my God, we've had to manually enter this. Same thing. And then he sets up ServiceTitan. And so now, because you've set up the pain points, you can go into the details of ServiceTitan, show screenshots and say, look, we have an item over here, view here. You can see all of these things. You can integrate in this way. Here's how it integrates with the other parts of your business, because you set that up as the key pain point to sort of create an arc for your narrative. You're saying this is the thing you should think about when you're looking for this software. Last example is a non-software example I wanted to include for folks listening that are like, I don't sell software. The keyword is best schools for sensory processing disorder. So sensory processing disorder is obviously, just by knowing that this is a keyword, you know that it's going to be some kind of disorder that kids have, and there are specific schools that perhaps specialize in it. After the sponsored results, the number 1 result is from Fusion Academy, our client. And then after that is sort of other examples of landing pages. I'm not going to continue to rip on more of them, but I will show another example of doing this kind of pain point related setup in the intro that allows you to link to the second half, which is your product or service and its features and how it solves those pain points. So This intro is long because, again, this is a category keyword for Fusion because Fusion is a school, and so it's best schools for. So it's this, what we call category keyword with layer of specificity. So it has this for sensory processing disorder. So because of that, and because in this space, like you're talking to a parent who has a child with a specific thing and they're looking for something very specific, it's actually was really important to resonate with that and kind of build that rapport with the reader, because we thought it was even more important than people looking for software. So the intro is even longer. So I'm going to give you highlights to show that same pattern. Set up the pain points and give the solution. Children with sensory processing disorder, SPD, can find it challenging to learn and socialize effectively in traditional schools. Because why? Because these students process sensory stimulation such as sound, lighting, and touch with varying levels of intensity. So they can experience bullets, increased sensitivity to sensory input, and then there's a bunch of detail. That means they may struggle with harsh fluorescent lights, noisy classrooms. They may become bothered by certain textures or touches, such as hugs from classmates or high fives from teachers. Second bullet, decreased sensitivity to sensory input. So for those students, they need ways to get stimulated, so that can involve they need to fidget or rock or sway or touch other objects. And then it goes in. For these students with decreased sensitivity, they may not be easily stimulated and engaged with traditional learning environments, such as sitting in a chair for a long amount of times. And then and there's more I'm skipping. Continues. Both types of students may benefit from a change of environment. That's that switch. So watch that. Set up a bunch of pain points. Then both types of students with SPD may benefit from a change in environment. Sets it up. Watch the analogy to Toro. So in Toro, if you remember, it was the trucking software example. So it all says like regular accounting software in QuickBooks doesn't work for all of these reasons. You have to enter these scanned documents, if you remember all that discussion. And then there's this transition to set up the solution. The only way to truly reduce data entry and accounting headaches is to eliminate paper and digitally track that. But for that to work, the software has to be easy for both dispatchers and drivers, and something most trucking management systems fail to deliver. That's where Toro comes in. So you sort of transition that over. Just like in ServiceTitan, it says, look, regular inventory management dedicated software has this issue that they don't integrate with everything else. So you need something that does integrate with the rest of your business. Enter ServiceTitan. And then that allows, for all these examples, I'm back to Fusion, for you to go into Fusion. And then there's this last part that I want to talk about is, if you're wondering and if you're feeling weird that like, hey, I have this keyword where I can pitch my product or service, and I'm planning to, and I like kind of the way the video or this advice is, and I'm going to set up the pain points, but like, it feels like the keyword also wants some best practice how to. Watch the way David on our team and the writer he probably worked with for this wrote this. They do a how-to that sets up best practices to look for, knowing that our solution will satisfy those. So it does both. It says, watch, in general, the best schools for sensory processing disorder are schools that are able to cater the classroom and campus environment towards the student, including, and these are not Fusion benefits yet. So he takes one extra step where he says, here are just like, if you have a student, your child with SPD, and they're having issues with regular schools, look for schools with this stuff. Changing how an instructor teaches in the classroom, adapting the classroom environment, implementing sensory breaks, keeping class sizes small, blah, blah, blah. And I'm skipping over a bunch of text. And so he sets that up in that way where he takes a little bit softer approach and doesn't come out and say like, Fusion is the best school for students with it. But later he then sets it up. And like, we're going to discuss a bunch of schools that are good and that satisfy those criteria. And we start off discussing Fusion at first. And now he's set up, these are the issues that your student might have if they have sensory processing disorder. These are the characteristics that a good school, or like schools that could work for your student, should have, that you should be looking for. Now let me set up Fusion. Fusion has those characteristics. And that's just like one step slower, but it does the same thing. So I hope this was useful. Questions and comments, ask us. You can sign up for our newsletter on our site. There's a newsletter link on the top right, growingconvert.com. We will be posting this on social. We have it on our email list. You can reply to the email. You can reply on social. I'm curious to make some of these a dialogue. In particular, if you have articles that you want to break down, I was thinking, Benji, it could be a fun episode for us to do, to take like reader articles.
That would be really fun.
Yeah, and like work with them and say like, hey, like here's what you wrote and here's how we would revise it and here's like things that you could be doing better. So feel free to reach out to us.
If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. You can also get the audio-only versions of these shows wherever you get your podcasts. And you can follow us at growandconvert.com/newsletter for any articles and updates for when these videos come out.